Although most people do not believe in telekinesis, there are people who feel strongly that some people can move or change objects with their minds. The human mind is an amazing thing. If you ask why, 100 billion neurons walking, our talk, our thinking, it makes it possible for us to build beautiful things using our creativity. By human nature, that we want more, inspires us to push the limits of brain power and discover new skills. Some of the most sought after of these skills are telekinesis, a skill that allows us to interact with physical objects using only our thoughts. Telekinesis experiments, historically it has been criticized for the lack of appropriate controls and reproducibility. There is no good proof that telekinesis is real, and the subject is often considered pseudoscience. The word telekinesis is a combination of the Greek words meaning distance and movement. It was first used by Russian researcher Alexander Aksakov in 1890. American parapsychologist Joseph Banks Rhine, she used the term extrasensory perception to describe paranormal receiving information from an external source, followed by telekinesis in 1934, first example of psychokinesis, to describe mentally influencing external objects or events without using physical energy. They were experiments conducted to determine whether a person influences the outcome of falling dice. Magicians, object movement, spoon bending, with Sims like some special privileges of psychokinesis of high-end teleport. According to Robert Todd Carroll, there are many impressive magic tricks for amateurs and professionals alike to simulate psychokinetic powers. According to Richard Wiseman, there are several ways to simulate psychokinetic metal bending. These, replacing flat objects for pre-bent copies, it involves inducing metal fractures in practice and covertly. Studies have also suggested that its effects may be generated by verbal suggestion. On this subject, magician Ben Harris wrote, "If you're doing a truly believable job, should be able to put a bent key on the table and say, 'Look, still bends,' and get your audience to actually believe it. This may sound like the height of courage. However, the effect is surprising and works well when combined with suggestion," expressed her views on the subject. For centuries, some people, they claimed that they had the power to control the movements of objects using only their minds. Levitation, opening the door with willpower, and bending the spoon are all interesting examples. To research, we need to evaluate the claims of telekinesis under the lens of science using scientific methods. IT is part of a discipline called parapsychology in which telekinesis researchers study psychic phenomena. Parapsychologists describe what they do as scientific, but other scientists disagree. Many observations have been made about the location. Although there are many anecdotes about telekinesis, there is no scientific record of its existence. No studies have been carried out in accordance with scientific methods, and no repeated study in a laboratory setting can prove it to be true. In the 1930s, Joseph Banks Rhine, the father of parapsychology, tested in the laboratory whether people could use telekinesis to roll a dice the way they wanted. After that, however, scientists were unable to replicate her findings, and this was a problem as it was crucial to proving an idea again. There are countless people outside of scientists who argue that it's telekinetic. However, all of them are either proven to be fraudulent or fail in situations they cannot fully control. This suggests that they arrange to prepare. Today, your spiritual abilities, like telekinesis, there is a huge amount of money available by so many hardware to anyone who can prove it real. However, this wealth has not yet been claimed by anyone. When we examine telekinesis, there is no full consensus on what exactly is being measured. Maybe strong brain waves? We must establish a standard force for research, which is necessary in all disciplines to test the validity of ideas. The focus of science is the discovery of the unknown, and in the history of scientific research, certainly, new discoveries have been seen to contrast with accepted science and even to destroy an entire branch of science. Such discoveries must be proved with greater care so that they can stand up to criticism. He opposes the science that accepts the idea of telekinesis. However, it lacks strong evidence to support its acceptance. Our universe is controlled and explained by the laws of physics. One of these rules tells us, she says that she cannot control objects because she is not powerful enough to affect anything beyond our brain and skull and cannot be reached far enough. Physics also tells us that the only force that can affect objects from afar is magnetic and gravitational force. Probably the closest thing science can explain to telekinesis is the use of thoughts to control a robot arm. In the brains of paralyzed patients who can't move, researchers can insert tiny wires into the region that controls movement and then train the patient to move and focus the robotic arm, which acts as an extension of the mind, and it works. While this is extraordinary, this is not telekinesis. Patients' thoughts are only absolute. It is not something undetectable. These are measurable brainwaves transmitted to the robot via wires. Science can measure movement, you can test it and explain it, and that's how we showed you that this kind of mind control is real. Some say that this mystical phenomenon is incompatible with the limits of science. But then telekinesis becomes purely a matter of personal persuasion. If something cannot be scientifically tested, then it cannot be defined scientifically. So the result of our research is that, as much as we want to believe that this power is within us, support for telekinesis remains insufficient. We are coming to the end of our video here. If you like our video, I would be happy if you press the like button. See you in another video. Bye.